world races toward digital finance, e-currency in Ghana, is it an ambition or reality? We've seen mobile money transform how we pay, how we send and receive money. But the next frontier is even bigger, a fully digital national currency, which is the ECD. And I've seen a lot of our leaders talk about it from the Bank of Ghana and all of that. And the Bank of Ghana has been running pilots, testing possibilities and exploring how this could actually shape our financial future as a nation. But the honest truth is this: the conversation isn't just about technology, it's about whether our systems, our institutions, and even we the people are ready. Do we trust it? Is our internet reliable enough? Can cybersecurity keep us safe? And will this new currency include everyone or leave some people behind? This morning, that's what we're talking about. We're asking the bold questions. I want to know whether Ghana is genuinely on the path to a digital currency revolution, or whether this is a dream we're still warming up to. And that is why we have joining us Harris Akita. He is a regional manager for Fortinet English West Africa. He works in cybersecurity, but got a lot of knowledge when it comes to these things. And he's joining us this morning for this important conversation. Hi, Harris. Good morning.
Good morning, Nii, and good morning to your listeners as well.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us.
It's a pleasure. The pleasure is always mine.
Right. Okay. So let's get into our conversation. Now we're talking about e-currency in Ghana. Maybe for starters, what exactly is e-currency for our listeners who don't quite have a lot of knowledge in that? What is e-currency, and how different, or how does it differ from mobile money and or regular cash?
All right. So when we talk about e-currency in the context of Ghana's ambition is the central bank trying to create digital currency. So instead of the traditional cash we carry around, you're going to have a digital one where it still has the same value as the cash, but you don't need to carry the cash around. So you can pay anything you want to pay from anywhere you are at any time, and you don't have to think about having to get cash on you. Now, when it comes to mobile money, as against e-currency, there are two different. E-currency in this context is being managed by the central bank, and so the central bank takes care of every liability that comes with it. But with regards to mobile money, it's managed by the telcos and the fintechs, and so the central bank can only support it. But if anything should happen, so with all this Momo fraud, you can't hold the central bank responsible for anything that happens on mobile money. But with e-currency or digital currency, you can always go back to the central bank to assist you with whatever challenges you have. So that's the difference between the two.
So the mobile money deals directly with the central bank. Sorry, the e-currency deals directly with the central bank.
Exactly. So in this case, that will be BOG.
I see. So does that mean that ECD would work even without mobile money platforms?
Yes, ECD work because the platforms are different, but then they can also interoperate, or let's say the ECD will complement the mobile money as we have it now.
But would people need internet access, or can it work offline just like cash?
So it depends on the implementation. Okay. There should be a way to inculcate everyone. Unfortunately, we are not up there yet when it comes to internet. So if the implementation is right, there should be an offline way for those who are not on internet, or those who are using who are not on smartphones, to be able to have access to e-currency. And I think we've done a good job on that, even with our current financial sector, introducing smart cards and USSD, just for our market women and those in the rural areas to also have access to digital cash.
So are there some countries that are actually rolling it out that you can mention? And which ones are they using? Are they doing the internet one, USSD, and all of that? Which ones are they doing?
So when it comes to e-currency, I think in the region, Kenya, I know, took the lead. Kenya, South Africa have taken the lead. I don't have much details on how they manage the rural side of things, but they have a similar challenge to what we have, and it's going so well there. The other places like the EU and the Americas also have it. So It depends on the geographical location and peculiar challenges they have. But I believe it will still work even with our current internet challenges where we don't have internet across the nation.
Yeah, because that's a very big barrier if we're going to limit it to internet. I mean, if we're going to use people, if people will need internet to be able to access it, then it's going to be a very big barrier. But if we're going to do some USSD, some offline things, then I think that will help greatly.
Definitely. So far, I think with the little I've seen on the piloting, it inculcates everyone, because if you are not able to get everyone on board, then it's going to fail. You can't just leave it for a few to use it. So so far with the systems in place, I think we are doing a good job. It's a step in the right direction, and we are going to get everyone on board.
We're going to talk about the progress you talk about. I mean, saying that we've made some progress already. We'll talk about that shortly. But how ready is our financial infrastructure to support a national e-currency system? Generally,
I will say we are relatively well positioned compared to many of our peers in the sub-region. Okay, if you look at the fact that we have a national ID system as a nation, we have digital addressing, and fortunately we have interoperability with our banks. So day-to-day activities with banks talking to each other, the systems are already in place, and so we are ready as a nation. Not fully, because there are risks, but I think the existing infrastructure will support it. And then, like we mentioned, even to inculcate those who are not on smartphones, we have the smart cards, data wallets, and then the USSD to assist those ones as well.
Right. So, which specific parts of our infrastructure, current infrastructure, are the biggest bottlenecks right now?
So, for me, I will say we need to take a good look at our security, because that's where we might have to, we will have some challenges as a nation. We need to really take it serious, because there should be some constant monitoring, and then there should be policies around data privacy as well. That way we can have people embracing the e-currency and then getting on board.
If we're able to deal with the cybersecurity issues.
Yes.
If we were to launch today, what would break first?
So, that's a big one. Well, if we're to launch today, I think so far we are doing well with the current systems we have. So, like I mentioned earlier on, we are complementing what we have. It's not like we are changing all the infrastructure we have, or we are in the systems we have already. So, if we are to launch today, I think so far with the piloting that has been done and the results that are coming in, we should be able to do well if there's proper awareness.
Okay. Hello?
Yeah, hello?
Yeah,
Can
Harris.
you hear me?
Yes. Were you done speaking?
Yes.
Okay, right. Okay, then let's move on. Now let's talk about the progress. You talk about the fact that, I mean, based on the piloting that has been done, it looks like we've made a lot of progress already. What progress has been made so far with the project?
Okay, let me give a brief history based on just for the sake of the listeners who do not even know there's e-currency going on, or there's anything like ECD agenda in Ghana. So this actually started in 2021, which was announced by the then governor of the Central Bank of Ghana. And so they partnered with a technology firm called GD, who are very well vested in digital currency. And then I think the pilot began right after that. And there were a few selected banks and institutions to get this running. As of 2024, BOG publicly affirmed that it was still ongoing, and then they have made some progress. And then this year, I think at the launch of the CD at 60, I think the officials of Bank of Ghana reaffirmed that ECD is going to happen, and it should happen before the end of 2026. So there has been a design phase. We've gone through the technical partnership with the organizations that are already into this, and then there has been the testing phases has been done. We are now looking at a full rollover. If we are able to get the right systems in place and we have a good uh, a good awareness or acceptance, I think the rollover should be seamless. That's if we have the right systems in place for the rollover. So that's where we started from. From 2021, I think we've done a good job. And if everything is right, we should be able to get it out, like the central bank said, by next year.
But are we ahead of schedule, behind, or exactly where the BOG planned?
For that, I think we'll leave that to the BOG communication team because they have done most of the work. And then for the information they have given us publicly, it looks like we are ahead of schedule because 2026, this is 6 years piloting, testing, all this. For me, I think we're ahead of schedule because other or our peers in the region are still wallowing in the design phase, but we have gone ahead and tested, and we are looking at rolling out. So we are ahead of schedule, I'll say.
Okay, right. But what do you think is the biggest milestone that we are yet to achieve?
Well, for me, it's two things. Again, I will always say cybersecurity and then privacy, or data privacy, and then regulation. Now, in the likes of the Europe, there's the GDPC to guide the use of data privacy. But over here, we are now going to collect, we have the data, but we need to understand what data needs to be used and then how it should be used. And then also we need to have constant auditing and supervision and then the right security in place. A key challenge if we don't do it right, if we are going to have a centralized management system for the management ledger, we need to have the right security in place so that if any attack should happen, it doesn't crumble, because it can also affect the economy. If there's any attack today, people can the rush withdrawal can crash the system. So for me, we need to look at the policies around it and then the security around it.
Okay,
Yes.
we're going to talk about the cybersecurity risk because I know that is your field really. We'll talk about it shortly, but let me just announce the phone line just in case anybody's listening to us and they want to join the conversation. If you just tuned, this is Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM. It's only 17 minutes after 9, and we're talking this morning about e-currency as a country. I mean, there's been conversations around ECD. We're asking the big question whether it's ambition or reality. And my guest this morning is Harris Akita. He is a cybersecurity professional, but he is a regional manager for Fortinet English West Africa as well. And he has joined me for this conversation. You can join the conversation as well on 0544321019, 0544321019. You can send me a text or you can send me a voice note and I'll play that for you. Or you can also join us on Facebook. We're streaming live at ZFMGH and also on YouTube at Ed Multimedia. Please do well to drop a comment and we'll read them for you this morning. Harris, let's continue the conversation. Now, you mentioned earlier that there are some other countries that have actually piloted it on the continent. I know that the Bahamas was actually the first to move into the e-currency thing. But are there some lessons that we can learn from other countries that have been able to do it?
So yes, there are a lot of lessons that we can learn. Okay, one is the regulatory oversight. Okay, who is supervising what is being done. There are some good benefits to it, but then you need to have the right policies in place and the right institutions to also monitor what you have. You need to have that balance, and then, like I mentioned earlier on, you need a robust cybersecurity and a resilient system to manage this. And then there's the need for user acceptance and the clear benefits. That's also very key, because if the users don't accept it and the users feel it's not really of a benefit to them, they won't really patronize, and that can also cause a failure. Like you mentioned earlier on, our challenge is internet, so the offline capabilities also matter for those who do not have access to smartphones and internet. What are they doing in the other regions that we can mimic or we can learn from? So those are some of the things we need to look at. And then interoperability with our existing financial systems. Is it that our existing financial systems have to change everything they have to accommodate the digital currency, or there's a way that we can integrate with what they have existing already? Those are some of the things we need to also consider and learn from those who have already gone ahead of us.
So which country do you think is the most realistic that we can model?
For me, I think the European Union is doing a fantastic job. I'm not going to use a country because we are still doing our best in Africa. But then when you look at the European Union, I think they have gone way ahead of us. They have gone through all the testing phase. They are currently using it. So we can learn more from what they have currently existing.
I see. But what mistakes from other countries should we avoid at all cost? Are there any?
So for other countries, for me, I think it's the centralization of the system. I don't know how the designing phase is going, because once you centralize it, you give it the risk is very high. And for me, I think that is one thing we need to really look at if that's the plan. Because yes, you need to have everything. You need to be transparent and track it. But then it should be designed in such a way that in case of anything, we can always fail over to another solution immediately to reduce any form of downtime or reduce any integrity issues with our citizens.
I see. Now, how reliable is the public's trust in a fully digital currency system?
So there are two sides to this question. Fortunately, this is nothing new to us because of the existence of mobile money. And so we are already used to using smartphones to make payments. We have access to cards for payments and all that.
Yeah.
The only challenge I see is the privacy issue, because a lot of Ghanaians feel if they go digital, that means that every transaction they do will be tracked. And so we need to have that kind of assurance that it's not necessarily tracking you, but it's for your own security. And that's why we need to make sure that anything you do, there's someone overseeing it. And then the central bank must also demonstrate some level of reliability, some security, and then fairness in the rollout of the system if we are going to go full scale.
Right. So do you is it a matter of the fear of government control or maybe the lack of understanding?
It's both. Okay. So lack of understanding is in the sense that again, you can't blame the citizenship. You need to look at the fact that we've had some challenges on the mobile money aspect, especially with all these cameras going on and all that. So there's that fear already of losing all your funds if you go full digital. Okay. And then we also look at the fear of the government monitoring and a lot of we are trying to also have a system where we can have a proper tax system. Okay. And that's where, for those who do not understand even the fact that we need to pay taxes to support the building of the nation, feel like they are being excuse my word, they are being robbed, or someone is trying to take from them. And so that is where the fear is as people. But if there's the right awareness, there's the right education, and also proper digital technological literacy in the system, people will embrace this as we grow.
But what kind of communication will change that perception?
So for me, it's how we create the awareness. It's more about having that clear communication on what benefits you're going to get from going digital, and the fact that it's not going to cost you much to use it as compared to maybe the traditional walking to the bank, the time it takes. If we can have that clear communication with our people, and then having stakeholder engagement, it's going to really drive adoption in the nation.
Okay, now let's talk about the cybersecurity aspect of it. I know you've mentioned that, and you mentioned that that's one of the biggest issues that we have to deal with if we want to roll this out. What specific risks are associated with adopting an e-currency in Ghana?
Okay, so for security risk, I think the first thing is system integrity, and then also double spending risk. Okay, especially for those who are going to do a lot of offline transactions. Now, without careful design, you might have people doing double payments and double transactions, and it can be exploited because if I know that if my system is offline and someone pays, once they come online, there's going to be another deduction. Some scrupulous people would take advantage of that system. And so we need to carefully look at that aspect of it and the systems we are going to use in terms of our transactions. Now, like I mentioned earlier on, centralization and a single point of failure, because once you centralize the ledger management system, you are prone to attack, and attacks on an hourly basis, the level of cybersecurity attacks that happen, you have no idea. So putting that kind of system in a centralized position puts it at a high risk. And for me, it's something we also need to look at. And then it's going to increase all these user-facing risk. Already we are having challenges on mobile money calls where scammers call. And this one, we are going to have more phishing, malware, ransomware attacks, theft of private keys of customers, which is also going to bring a lot of issues, if not legal issues, at least citizens are happy and pulling out of the system. So that's also another thing. For me, I think we need to create a lot of awareness on how to keep your digital keys so nobody can take it from you. And then, like I mentioned, privacy and surveillance, because if there's someone tracking or if third parties have access to the systems, it's easier for them to also try and then take from places where there are loopholes. And we need to have proper surveillance and monitoring of the system if we're going to go full digital. The other thing I'll talk about is operational infrastructure risk, where there are mismatches, errors in terms of funds transfer, potential loss of funds. The systems you're going to use, the hardware, how dependable are they? We need to take a look at all those things, and we need to be very intentional about most of these challenges.
Right, but do you are current cybersecurity institutions able? Are you sure they'll be able to handle these things? Are they capable of handling these threats?
So I'll say they are capable, but security is not 100%, and it's not a one-person job. Okay, there are different forms of attack, and so you need to have a fabric or an end-to-end security. The institutions will do their part, but how do we get the users to also be secured? We need to have that constant awareness, because my mother sitting at Mokola does not even care if she gives her PIN to someone just to help her withdraw the money that she needs. And for some of these things, we need to create that constant awareness that you don't share your security keys, you don't give out your personal details. And there should be, like I said, constant monitoring of some of these things so we can easily curb it immediately they happen, to avoid a lot of challenges when it comes to security attacks. Unfortunately, the informal sector is more, and so we'll have to do a lot of work on that side just to get them to embrace the digital currency.
Right. Now, you mentioned a lot of risks. Actually, which ones do you think pose the biggest risk to us? I mean, you mentioned a lot of attacks. Yeah.
Yes. For me, it's the user facing, because that has to do with the individuals. And once there's theft, they will come breathing down the authorities that are managing the whole digital currency system. And so, like I mentioned earlier, we need to sensitize them. We need to create that awareness. The individual is more a risk than the systems, to be honest. because if anybody is going to attack the system, they're going to use an individual.
That's
And then
true.
the third parties that are also going to connect to the digital currency system should also be scrutinized. They need to have that. There's supposed to be some standard when it comes to security you need to put in place just to have access to the digital currency system.
I want
Yes.
you to throw a
So
lot more light on the user facing. What exactly is it?
so the user facing is those, so or the let me put it as customers, the customers who are going to bank with the digital currency system. So they are the users, and they face more risk because if there's going to be any attack to get money from unscrupulous people, they are going to send all phishing messages. They're going
Yeah.
to send malwares. They're going even ransomware attack to the system can be through the user, because if I'm connecting to a centralized system with my phone and a hacker or a bad person wants to attack it, they can just send a ransomware code or back to my phone, and once I log in, it easily travels to the system, and anything can happen from there. So the users are very key when it comes to this, and unfortunately, if the whole nation is going to be on board, that's about 30,000 plus people who are going to 30 million
30
people
million.
who are going
Yeah.
to
Right now, 33.
who are going to
thereabout.
join. Yes, who are going to get access to this system. So what can we do to prevent them from sending those kind of bugs or attacks to the centralized system if we are going to do that?
Okay. Right. And you're saying that that's the biggest attack we might face, right?
Yes, for every organization, the users are the biggest attacks.
How do we start preparing to deal with that? A lot of education.
A lot of education, and then, like I said, we need to be intentional about digital literacy and technological literacy, because if you are security conscious and aware, and unfortunately, I'll have to say this, but when I started this journey, I noticed that a lot of our people here do not really take security serious. We can easily give out our private information to any stranger and we don't care. And that's where social engineering comes in. So we need to have that constant awareness, constant training. When we're growing up, there were trainings on some things, were moral things that we needed to avoid. And it helped us or it shaped us as we were growing. And I think if we can go in that direction again to constantly talk to people, especially in their local languages, to understand what the risks are, we should grow to a certain level. We can't completely eliminate it, but at least we can have a good number of people avoiding most of these challenges.
Okay, right. Let's talk about the impact. What impact or how would e-currency actually impact everyday transactions for Ghanaians?
So it's going to be good. It's a step in the right direction, like I mentioned earlier on. Faster and cheaper payments, which will help because you don't need to go and withdraw cash to go and spend. It's going to be greater convenience. Mobile money is currently doing that, but mobile money has to do with you keeping your money with someone. In this case, your money is digital, so you can actually easily pay, and it brings greater convenience and accessibility to your funds anytime, anywhere. Financial inclusion for the unbanked and the underbanked. That's those who do not even have access to bank accounts or do not even know how to use a traditional bank. It's easier for them because they don't need to walk into a banking hall to go through the stress of opening a bank account. They can easily have that on their phone and have access to it anywhere they are, and they are good. And then it's more efficient for the government to also look at taxes, welfare, social security contributions. It's easier for the government to also look into that and then even help those in the informal sector when it comes to social security. So it's going to be very convenient for our day-to-day lives if we can go that direction.
So it's going to make transactions faster.
Faster and then more convenient.
Okay, so what happens during system downtimes or network failures?
So that is one of the risks I've been like I keep talking about. So if it's going to be centralized, then we need to make sure that there's nothing like a downtime or there's a minimal downtime. Otherwise, there should always be a secondary place to fail over to avoid any form of downtime. And if the design phase has gone well, honestly, that's more technical for those who were doing the piloting and then the implementation. But I believe that they should have something in place where there should be there should always fail over to avoid any form of downtime, because these are people's monies and livelihood. And if the entire nation is going to get on board, they want to make sure that we avoid anything like a downtime.
Okay. So do you foresee this actually increasing financial inclusion or maybe excluding some people?
Um, I actually think it's going to help. There are risks, definitely, but it's going to help because it will lower transaction costs and easier payment, especially for those in the rural dwelling places. So, if the charges they are going to face on the traditional or existing mobile money systems is going to cost them more, and I have my bank. This is um, easy access to my personal bank. It's not like a third party going to my bank, but this is my bank. It's going to really help and also increase the inclusion because it saves a lot of stress. The only problem, like I mentioned earlier, or like you have stated, is our technological literacy and then also our internet challenges. Um, if the smart cards and the USSD fails, how are people able to access their funds? We need to look at the registration, the trust issue, the understanding issue in that aspect. So, yes, it's going to have an increased inclusion, but there's also that risk of people pulling out if it's not done right.
Well, which groups of people do you think are most at risk of being left behind?
Um, I will say the rural dwellers, because again, we are now extending most of this technological infrastructure into our rural areas. The urban cities we are fine, but the rural areas, and then also the I don't want to say illiterate, but those who have little knowledge about technology might be left behind unless we find a way to handle that.
Okay. Now, how does I don't know how best to ask this question, but I want to know: does this pose any threat to the mobile money system we already have currently?
I don't believe so. I believe it's, if anything, it's going to complement it. Already, the mobile money system, I'll say, is choked because every individual is using mobile money system. But to free up that threats, that those risks and challenges that the mobile money poses, and the way sometimes it's being handled, I think if we go digital currency, we it's going to complement it and it's going to make life easier and faster. They'll work hand in hand eventually, but um, I think it's not a threat. It's rather going to help.
Mm. Okay.
Yes.
Anyway, so still on the financial inclusion thing, how do you think that the government, I mean, can design the system to avoid widening the gap?
So it boils down to inclusion. Okay, we shouldn't leave people behind. Okay, that's why I said initially that we need to have a broader stakeholder consultation. Okay, let's first of all understand what the challenges of those who are likely to be left behind. If the government can have that broader consultation with those people who are likely to be left behind, and then we understand their point, it's easier for us to now find solutions to where their challenges. And
Mm.
if the government can actually push for that engagement, it should really help if we're going to get all of them on board. So, stakeholder consultation is the best way to go.
But that is for maybe the beginning stages, right? Before we start the whole thing, or maybe the first few months or weeks or years. But the system itself, can't we do anything about the system itself that will actually make widening the gap avoidable?
So it depends on what implementations we make, and if we get the feedback from that engagement, if that engagement is done, um, it will inform what systems need to be put in place to help those in those in that category to also avoid widening the gap. So we would rather get more information from there on how the which things can be done and how it's going to favor them. So if we can get that sorted and remove that gap, we should have everybody on board.
Okay. All right. So 20 minutes to the top of the hour. This is Business Breakfast on Z101.9 FM with me, Nii Trebi Hammond. This morning we're talking about e-currency in Ghana, whether it's ambition or reality. And my guest is Harris Akita. He is a cybersecurity professional, but he works with regional. He's a regional manager actually for Fortinet English West Africa, and he's our guest this morning. We've been talking about it. We've spoken about what exactly e-currency means. We've spoken about how ready we are as a country, what risks, cybersecurity risks are actually associated with adopting the e-currency system in Ghana. And that's actually a conversation that is very, very important. You may want to join us. You can send us a WhatsApp on 0544321019. All your questions, your comments will be read. And if they require answers, we'll give them. So 0544321019, 0544321019. You can as well call us on 030395661, 030395661. You can call us and then we'll give you the opportunity to join the conversation. We're also streaming live on Facebook at ZFMGH and on YouTube at Z Multimedia. Now, this conversation actually borders around you, so you must ask a question. Feel free to reach out to us, drop a comment on our live streams on Facebook or on YouTube, and we'll read them for you as well. Well, Harris, let's continue the conversation. Now, we've already spoken about financial inclusion. We'll move on to a very important aspect as well, which is whether our banks or fintech companies are actually ready to handle such a nationwide, current e-currency rollout. What do you think? How prepared are the banks and fintech companies?
So I believe our banks are, should I say, ready, because BOG has already partnered with most of the technology partners, that private fintechs and tech companies, to help build the ECD. And the pilot was also done with some of the banks in the system. So don't forget, we already have interbank interoperability between the banks, and we have a system that's already working. It's a matter of how can we conveniently align that to the e-currency or the digital currency to make it work with the banks. But overall, I think we are ready as a nation. Our banks are ready. There might be some few risks, but I think those are things that the banks can always handle. However, readiness does not mean we are perfect or we are there. There are some existing challenges, and some of them remain documented. But as we grow, we will overcome some of these bottlenecks and then move forward.
But are the banks excited about this anyway?
The banks are, but again, there might be some challenges, because if we also have everybody on board, there's a risk of lower deposits, which might affect the bank's business, and also the lending challenges that will come with the banks when it comes to lending. So I think those are two things that might be a challenge, but I still believe that once there's a rollout, there will always be ways or policies around that to ensure that we don't go full scale data, but we still have the banking sector operational.
Do you have an idea how it is working in the other countries you mentioned earlier?
Honestly, I don't have a full idea of how it works, especially with regards to the banking sector. But I know a few people who are using data currency, and they save through a bank. They still have a bank, so it can be monitored. So you will still have to go. BOG cannot fully do it. BOG cannot fully run the digital currency. They still need the banks to run it. And so I know that's how it's being done in other regions where they have the banks. You say you need to have an account. You need to have your money sitting in your account. It's just that in this case, it's digital. You don't walk to the bank to withdraw it, but then the bank is still the overseer of whatever you have, whatever um, currency you're having. They are the ones managing it for you. So it's not completely going. It's not going to eliminate the banking system.
Okay, right. But what investments do fintechs need to make to be ready?
So fintechs on their side, again, they are already doing good, but I think they need to up their technology to accommodate the digital currency because having the traditional system now, the traditional money system now, currency system now, is is different compared to the digital currency. Digital currency is a whole different ballgame because everything resides on systems, and so they need to have the right applications in place, the right systems in place, the right security in place, so they can interoperate with most of these systems we're going to use.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Well, in terms of policy and regulations, how far have we come? And if you may, what policies or regulations are necessary to be able to make this rollout safe?
All right. So, in terms of policy and regulation, the very first one should be clear legal framework. Okay. Given that the CD is a status of legal tender, we need to have a clear legal direction on how it's going to be used. Okay, we need to define the rights, the obligations, how conversion is going to be done. Okay, to fiscal cash and vice versa, and the enforcement. It's not just about having the framework, but how we are going to enforce it. That should also be another thing we need to look at. And then we need to look at data protection and privacy, which I've mentioned, or I think over and over that transaction should be handled securely, and then the use of people's data should be respected. You can't just take someone's details because you claim you are managing their funds, and then you end up sending it out for anybody to have access to. That's also another thing we need to look at. So there's a need to have a proper data protection and privacy law to protect how the data that is collected is used. And then again, cybersecurity standards and oversight. Whoever is going to have access to the system, there should be some privilege access and monitoring. There should be a standard of security you need to have before you can even have access to the platform that is going to operate the digital currency. So we need to look at all those things, and then interoperability and inclusion regulation. What systems need to be in place, like you mentioned with the fintechs, if they're going to interpret what needs to be done, what they can have access to. We need to also clearly define those ones, and then we need to have protection, anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism financing, financing rules. We need to have that because if we don't have that, it will be another channel for money laundering and then financial terrorism. So we need to also look at that, and then we need to have more education and transparency mandate. There should be a proper education structure for some of these things. For me, I think we need to take that security campaign seriously for even the basic person or even a child to understand that there are some do's and don'ts when it comes to financial transactions. And so if we can have these policies in place, I believe we should be ready.
Right, but which regulator should actually take the lead? Is it BOG, NCO, SCA, sorry, or maybe a new digital finance authority or something?
Well, I believe BOG should take the lead, but it shouldn't fully reside with BOG. There should be, because of the nature of the system, it shouldn't solely reside with BOG, but there should be other stakeholders to also have oversight on. I don't know how this will be done or how it's going to be planned, but it shouldn't solely rely with the BOG. The BOG can take the lead, have everything in place, but at a point in time, there should be some level of division, so you don't have all the power residing in BOG.
Okay. All right. Our time is almost up, so we'll touch on a few other things, and then we can go. One of the biggest issues or the challenges is corruption and fraud. How might they be prevented in a fully digital financial system?
So, with regards to corruption and fraud, I think this is the best way to tackle corruption and fraud. Because in this case, you can easily trace every form of transaction, and it's easier for you to flag any illicit payment or anything that is not right. So you can easily, I don't want to go too technical, but there's something we call blockchain. If we're going to include blockchain, you can easily track the transaction and wherever it has gone through. And if we're going to fight some of these things, currency is the best way because it's going to be the best platform to have that. Anti-money laundering again can be flagged if the right policies are set in place. It's easier to be flagged. In fact, you can have even AI with the introduction of AI machine learning. You can have some of them sitting in some of these systems, and it's easier for the system itself to flag and give alert that you need to look into some transactions. The frequency and the volumes can easily raise the flags. And again, it helps with the know your customer, okay, for their own digital wallet and transaction monitoring. So it's actually going to help. It's really going to help with regards to fraud and corruption. To be honest.
I see.
Yes.
But are we going to replace cash fully, or we are going to use that alongside? Because if we're going to replace cash fully, then we can be talking about the corruption thing you're saying that it will help us deal with that. But if we're going to use it alongside, don't you think people will prefer to do the cash if they want to go? I mean, do their corrupt stuff.
So it's not going to fully replace cash, but it's going to limit the printing of cash. So that way you have the same cash in the system circulating. And so if there's a need to have more cash and you want to go to the bank, that's where it will still raise questions. Why do you need this amount of cash? Why can't you transfer digitally? So it's actually going to be a platform that's going to help on every side to be able to identify if there's any form of corruption. Because if we are not printing new notes and it's the same money and you need a certain amount of money, why do you need that? Why can't you transfer it? Why do you want to avoid? Because if I want to avoid my finances being traced, I'm going to do cash. But when you get to the bank should be able to ask questions why you need that amount of cash. And because of that, it's going to also help curb the use of cash for anything illegal.
But eventually, do you think that is going to make printing cash unnecessary? Eventually.
Um, it's possible, but I won't say it's impossible. It's possible, but I don't think it's going to happen in the near future.
In the near future,
because we don't have all the systems in place, and the nation at large is still growing, and so it's going to take a long time. But it's possible we might get to a point where we can completely eliminate cash.
Right. Okay. Maybe my last question to you is that overall, is e-currency in Ghana a realistic goal in the near future, or maybe more of a long-term ambition?
So for me, after several years of planning and piloting, it seems realistic at this point because it can be done. Now with the BOG publicly coming out to say that they want to launch before 2026, that suggests it's likely to materialize in the short to mid term. But again, it's going to be long term with wide scale adoption, full integration across all the banks and all the economic sector. I think it's going to take time, and so realistic, yes, but it's going to take time for us to have that full integration. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Harris. Really grateful that you made time, and I think it's been a great conversation. Thanks for sharing your insight with us.
Thank you too for having me.
All right. Please do enjoy the rest of your day. All right. So that was Harris Akita. He's a regional manager with a regional manager for Fortinet English West Africa. And he's been talking to us about e-currency in Ghana, whether it's an ambition or a reality. And we've talked about quite a number of things, but looks like it's a good thing. We all have to anticipate just that there's some more work to be done in terms of education, raising the awareness, and getting people to sign up for this. And so We'll continue to monitor the conversations. It's likely to roll out next year, and hopefully we get to speak again on this particular subject matter. But that's how we wrap up today on the Business Breakfast on Z. Thank you very much to our guest, Harris Akita, who is the regional manager for Fortinet English West Africa, for joining us. And thanks to you also for paying attention or listening right from 6:15 till now. We're really grateful. Thank you so much for being with us. My name is Nii Trebi Hammond. We're back again tomorrow for the Thursday edition of the Business Breakfast on Z. Until then, please take very good care of yourself and make sure that when you think Ghana, you think